Joe Goldberg always believed he wasn't a monster. He told himself he was a lover, a protector, a prince willing to break society's rules to save his princess. But with every relationship, every corpse, every lie, Joe was peeling back another layer. Not to hide, but to reveal what was underneath. And by season 5, Joe isn't just a killer. He isn't even a monster anymore. He's something worse. We're watching the devil step into the light.
In the past, I was afraid to show all of myself.
You want us to kill everyone who becomes suspicious of us for the rest of our lives.
Joe Goldberg is a serial killer.
Maybe because deep down I knew they'd reject me.
You're broken. I'm not the problem. My husband is the problem.
I thought you'd be happy to see me.
You're a murderer, Joe.
You have killed so many people.
There isn't a line I wouldn't cross to protect this family.
This place is mine!
It was gonna kind of did hold more than books. Not many people have made it. Not many people have seen this side of me and lived. What if I killed everyone who tried to hurt you?
What if it's enough for me? You want to?
I know you did it. I know you killed her. How did you do it?
You don't want to know.
Paco! Open the door! Open the door, please!
It was always gonna end this way, wasn't it?
No, it didn't have to! But you're ungrateful! You're spiteful! I made you special! Ronte, you're too selfish to know how good you've had it! You want to know how I killed Beck? I'll show you.
Do you remember when you used to tell me there were no monsters in my room? You lied. It was you. You're the monster.
The start of Joe's downfall is, ironically, one of his most psychologically grounded moments. He's no longer pretending, no longer masking his actions behind romance or panic. Joe Goldberg knows exactly who he is. He's a killer, and not in a tormented, conflicted way. Not anymore. Joe enjoys murder. It scratches an itch for him that nothing else can, and he's accepted it, not as a flaw, but as a function. But here's the catch. Joe still needs to believe his violence serves a purpose. To him, killing is never just killing. It's rescue, it's sacrifice, it's the monster saving the girl from the fire. That's where Kate Lockwood comes in. 3 years prior to season 5, Joe married her. He finally met someone who, on the surface, understood him. Kate admitted to doing terrible things, contributing to children getting cancer to help her father's pharmaceutical empire. Joe, in turn, admitted he had killed people, and for a moment, it was perfect. Joe had found a woman who didn't run from his darkness. Beck was horrified when she found out. Marianne vanished the second she saw the real Joe. Even Love Quinn, his violent, chaotic ex-wife, wasn't quite right for him. Because while Love embraced her own darkness, Joe didn't want a partner in blood. He didn't want two beasts. He wanted to be the beast that saved beauty. And in Kate, he saw the potential. Not because she was innocent, but because she wanted to be. She didn't glorify her past. She wanted to be better. And she wanted Joe to be better too. To hold each other accountable. To evolve. For Joe, this was ideal. Because if Kate no longer wanted to be evil, then any threat that came her way would require Joe to step in and handle it. She wouldn't get her hands dirty, but he could. And that's all he ever really wanted. Permission to kill, as long as it could still be called love. By the time we reach season 5, Joe is in the best position of his life. He has Kate, he has his son, Henry. He's now back living in New York as a respected figure. The husband of a CEO, named by the media as Prince Charming. A man now seen by the public. He doesn't care about the attention though. He just wants one thing, for Kate to see him, to recognize the real him, to need the monster when the time comes. And then, the time comes. Kate's mentor, Bob Kane, joins forces with her twin half-sisters, Maddie and Reagan, to attempt a vote of no confidence. The goal is to push Kate out of her CEO position, and Joe, hearing the threat, instantly fantasizes about killing Bob. Kate sees this and shuts it down, but when it's later revealed that Bob leaked information to the press, exposing Kate's involvement in covering up Reese Montrose's death, Joe gets exactly what he's been waiting for. Permission.
I know what we promised. I know how hard you've worked to stay good.
But
if this gets out, what you did in London, I mean, it's our survival. It's him or us.
Kate, with nowhere else to turn, tells him reluctantly to do what needs to be done. Joe doesn't hesitate. He kills Bob. He stages the death as a suicide, and Kate's position is safe. Joe, he's satisfied. This isn't just another murder, it's a righteous kill. A heroic act in his mind. Bob became a threat to beauty, so the beast stepped in. And the smile on Joe's face says it all. His fantasy is back. He's no longer just killing to survive. He's killing to protect, and being loved for it. Psychologically, this moment marks Joe's full embrace of egosyntonic psychopathy. His violence no longer causes guilt. It fits comfortably with his identity. There's no dissonance, only validation. Even his planning reflects how deep the transformation has gone. Joe was writing and fantasizing about the murder before doing it. He dreamed about it, and when the moment came, he executed with surgical precision. This is cognitive restructuring. He reframes murder as an act of emotional duty. He doesn't see a human life. He sees a plot point, a problem, a villain written into the story so that he, the protector, can step in and be needed. And for the first time in years, Joe has it all. The woman, the child, the power, and most dangerously of all, the story that makes him feel justified. Because he isn't just living in peace, he's living in a world where he gets to be the beast, and still has someone to call him their hero. Trying to reconnect with the version of himself he understands best, Joe begins visiting Mooney's again, the old bookstore where he was abused and later reborn, where he met Beck, where he first became the monster he tried to rationalize as a lover. Now, with blood freshly on his hands again, Joe needs a sanctuary, somewhere quiet, somewhere familiar, somewhere where he can stop performing for the world and slip back into who he really is. And nothing says control like the glass cage. Joe doesn't rebuild it for his victims, he rebuilds it for himself. Because to him the cage isn't just a prison, it's a ritual, a sacred place where he becomes God. It's where he rewrites people, breaks them down and conditions them to accept him. And if they don't, they die. So when a young woman named Bronte breaks into Mooney's one night, Joe's on edge, but curious. She claims she was just borrowing books. She's financially unstable, maybe even homeless, so he just lets her go. But when he finds her sleeping in the shop days later, something shifts. She's vulnerable, desperate, in need of help, and that is Joe's favorite. He offers her a job, and just like that, the next fantasy begins, because Bronte represents something Kate no longer does. Innocence. Someone untainted by Joe's past. Someone who hasn't seen the monster, and might still fall in love with him after she does. Meanwhile, things with Kate are deteriorating fast. Joe wanted to kill Reagan, Kate's sister, for threatening her CEO position, but unlike with Bob, Kate says no. Worse, she regrets ever letting Joe kill Bob in the first place.
When you said you felt exhilarated when you handled Bob, it scared me.
You thought she was grateful that she accepted all of you.
Are you only doing this to protect us, or is there something else? Is there something that you can't control?
This moment devastates him. Not only does Beauty want the beast to stop doing what he loves, she's starting to despise him for it. So Joe retreats further into his fantasy with Bronte. But this time, the plan isn't to hide who he is. It's to reveal it slowly, piece by piece, until she chooses to accept it. Unfortunately, things don't go as planned. Joe attempts to kidnap Reagan, but mistakenly captures her twin, Maddie. He locks her in the cage before realizing his mistake. Now he's stuck. Maddie didn't know about the darkness. She only knew Prince Charming. And now that she's seen the truth, Joe can't just let her walk out. So what does he do? He finishes the job. He kidnaps Reagan, locks her up too, and makes Maddie an offer. Kill your sister, impersonate her on the board, or I kill you both. Out of fear, Maddie complies. She kills Reagan, takes her place, and Joe walks away clean. But this is something new. Joe's no longer just a killer. Joe's decision to make Maddie impersonate Reagan and kill her sister in the cage wasn't about guilt. It wasn't moral displacement. It was a calculated power move. Joe would have loved to kill Reagan himself. That's who he is. But he saw a better opportunity. If Maddie committed the murder, she could never turn on him. His CCTV cameras filmed it. He had the footage, and he stored it like insurance. Because now, Maddie belongs to him. Every move she makes, every board meeting she attends, every word she speaks, Joe owns it. This is psychological entrapment, engineered through irreversible moral compromise. Not only does Maddie have to live with the fact she killed her sister, she has to live with the knowledge that Joe made her do it, and he has the evidence to destroy her. He didn't give her a way out, he gave her a life sentence outside of a cage. This is classic coercive conditioning, a psychological boot camp into obedience, and it shows just how far Joe has fallen.
This place is mine!
And once upon a time, it did hold more than books. Not many people have made it. Not many people have seen this side of me and lived.
So fucking listen to me when I tell you, you need me.
If you want to get out of here.
Joe's entered the God complex stage, seeing people not as individuals, but as instruments in a story only he gets to write. Kate no longer wants the beast, so Joe sets his sights on Bronte, a new project, a blank slate, someone he can shape slowly, carefully, into someone who might finally love the monster. In the midst of chaos, Joe leans harder into fatherhood. At first it's unclear why. When Henry was born, Joe resented him. He saw the baby as love's burden, a trap, something that got in the way of freedom. After love's death, he sent Henry away without hesitation. But now, years later, Joe brings him back. Henry is older, easier to shape. Kate steps in as the maternal figure, and Joe decides it's time to be a father, but not a nurturing one. This isn't parenting, it's ideological grooming. When Henry assaults Gretchen, Reagan's daughter, Joe doesn't discipline him, he justifies him. When Henry throws a knife at Reagan during a tense dinner, Joe doesn't see a child in crisis, he sees a boy learning loyalty.
What if I'm sick too?
Not sick. You didn't hit Gretchen or throw the knife because you're sick. You did it because you're trying to protect us. That's my job. That's what dads do.
Joe begins projecting his own worldview onto Henry. He sees him not as a son, but as a proxy, a future man who will carry the same twisted moral code of protective violence. This is malignant parenting, the weaponization of love as indoctrination. Instead of empathy, Joe teaches punishment. Instead of growth, he instills control. And while this distorted fatherhood brews in the background, his obsession with Bronte reaches a new level. Joe starts writing novels about her, not just as a woman he desires, but as a woman he must save. He constructs a fantasy in which she becomes his reason to kill again. In his mind, Bronte isn't just someone to love, she's someone to rescue. And then, almost on cue, she starts giving him an excuse. Bronte tells Joe about her ex-boyfriend, Clayton, a manipulative man who mistreated her and now humiliates her publicly. When Joe sees Clayton reading an erotic poem of hers aloud to mock her, something shifts in him. This is what Joe's been waiting for. Not love, not romance, justified violence. It activates his revenge fantasy script, a familiar cycle where he assigns everyone a role. Bronte is innocent, Clayton is the villain, and Joe is the righteous avenger. But it's not about defending Bronte, it's about restoring his fantasy. The idea that he's the one thing standing between a helpless woman and a cruel world, that his violence is meaningful, even noble. Soon he's sleeping with Bronte. He gives her a job, a place to live, stability. She falls for him, and for a moment, Joe feels powerful again. He's the white knight, the protector, the provider. But then Kate finds out. She confronts him, not just for cheating, but for who he really is, for the lies, the manipulation, the murders. She announces the end of their marriage, and with it, the end of Joe's narrative.
Just because I acknowledge it does not mean I accept it. I despise that part of myself, and I despise the fact that you won't even try to control it in you. This is murder we're talking about. I am not a queen. You are not a knight. This is not some romantic fantasy. This is reality. We accept our losses. We move the fuck on.
This moment shatters him. Kate was supposed to be the one who accepted him, the one who saw the darkness and still stayed. Instead, she rejects him. This is textbook narcissistic collapse. Joe's carefully constructed identity begins to unravel when the one person he needed validation from refuses to play along. His internal fantasy dies with her words. And so, Joe shifts all hope onto Bronte. She's his last chance, his final fantasy, the one who still might see the monster and call it love. They retreat to a beach house and everything seems under control, until it explodes. Joe hears her arguing with Clayton downstairs. When he runs down to protect her, Clayton hits him. Joe fights back. He's violent, he's primal when he smashes Clayton's head on the ground, and he kills him. But before Joe can even turn around and breathe, two people burst into the room, Dominique and Phoenix. with their phones recording. A TikTok livestream captures Joe next to the body, blood on his hands, confusion on his face. And then the truth crashes in. Bronte had set him up. This wasn't a rescue, it was a trap designed to lure the monster into the light. When Joe killed Clayton, it was terminal moral delusion. He believed that his violence was not just justified but beautiful, that one day Bronte will thank him for it. But not this time. No one thanks him. No one hides the body, no one calls him misunderstood. There's no faking suicides here, because Bronte, Dominique and Phoenix weren't victims. They were witnesses. And now the world is too. Joe experiences reality trauma, the psychological implosion that occurs when a carefully crafted identity is publicly and violently dismantled. This isn't just a fall from grace, it's a fall from the very myth he built about himself. He thought he was the beast that would always find a beauty to save, but this time, beauty had pulled the trigger. Joe Goldberg was always the one pulling the strings. He watched, he studied, he seduced. But now, for the first time, he's the one being played. After the viral livestream exposes him as a killer, the internet explodes. The perfect husband, the loving father, the soft-spoken bookstore owner, now caught on camera, drenched in blood. And then Bronte's involvement gets revealed. She was part of a group that was hell-bent on exposing Joe's murder of Guinevere Beck back in season 1, an injustice that had imprisoned Dr. Nicky in his place. In fact, Clayton was Dr. Nicky's son, which made it all make sense. The encounters at the bookstore, the tragic ex-boyfriend story, the slow trust building, it was all staged. Bronte used Joe's entire psychological playbook against him, from vulnerability mirroring to strategic seduction, emotional dependency, and false moral alignment. This is reverse manipulation, and because Joe fell for it so easily, the betrayal cuts deeper than anything Kate ever did. He gets arrested but walks free thanks to Kate's legal team and Bronte, who shockingly claims that the killing was in self-defense. Despite being part of the plan to catch him, she genuinely fell for him along the way. And to Joe, that means one thing: there's still hope. But just as he clings to the illusion, Kate lands her most brutal blow yet.
Never take my son from me!
It's already done.
What does that mean?
When you signed the agreement with the lawyer, there was a temporary custody agreement in the paperwork. I guessed correctly that you were too caught up in your own bullshit to notice it was there. You've already agreed that you're not fit to care for him.
Without Joe reading the terms and conditions, she made him sign away custody of Henry. If Joe tries anything, if he steps out of line, he loses everything, and she makes sure that Henry is kept far from reach. For Joe, this is emotional castration, the symbolic severing of the one role he believed made him worthy. He can no longer kill his way back into fatherhood. He can't manipulate a court. He can't stalk his way into redemption. He's not a misunderstood protector anymore. He's a powerless man, and the walls start to close in further. Online detectives begin unmasking Joe's full history. Beck, Love, Bron, Candace, everyone. Joe, the master of narrative control, is now the target of it. He's no longer behind the screen. He's the one being surveilled. This is weaponized narrative inversion. Joe is now the subject of the very psychological manipulation he once perfected. The stalker was being stalked. The hunter was being hunted. Then something happens. Joe sees Bronte get kidnapped and thrown into a van. He chases the attacker down, rescues her, and traps the man, Dane, in the cage. Joe brings Bronte to see him, and in a twisted gesture of trust, he tells her,
Whatever you want me to do to him, I'll do. Let him out? Never let him out. The choice is yours.
It's your call. Should he live or die? Bronte, after speaking to Dane, chooses mercy. She wants him to be monitored but not murdered. Joe nods, he pretends to agree, but then a few nights later, he tracks down Dane on the street and kills him anyway, stabbing him to death. He didn't just want a reason to be violent, he needed it. Bronte wouldn't give him permission, so he just took it. This isn't love, it's trauma-bonded delusion. Bronte believes that she can contain Joe's monster. Joe believes that she should worship it. They're trying to love versions of each other that don't exist.
What if I killed everyone who tried to hurt you?
What if it's enough for me? You want to?
Bronte tells him that Joe wanting to be a killer is enough for her. He doesn't actually have to do it. This is what's called narcissist shared fantasy, a relationship that's built on mutual illusion. Joe pretends to surrender emotionally, but it's manipulation. He's only offering submission to earn the license to kill again. Bronte thinks that love can save him. Joe thinks that love should fuel him to be the monster. It's a fatal mismatch. Worse, Joe's letting her believe that she's in control. By pretending to offer her power, he makes her morally complicit. If she had said yes to killing Dane, and then Joe went and killed him, that would make her just as dark and twisted as Joe. It would fulfill his fantasy of the beauty wanting her beast. This is emotional entrapment. If she chooses the violence, he feels validated. If she refuses, he just acts anyway, and he frames it as instinct. Either way, Joe wins, but his world begins to collapse faster than he can repair it. Kate drains his accounts. She takes the apartment, Mooney's, his entire infrastructure of control just disappears overnight, and Joe finally snaps. Kate isn't just a danger to his lover now. She's no longer just an annoying ex. She's a threat to his entire fantasy, so he decides to kill her. But when he follows her into a parking lot, he's ambushed, sedated, and locked inside his own glass cage. And this time, he's not the one holding the key. Kate and Nadia are working together. The same Nadia Joe framed for murder back in season 4. Kate used her power to get Nadia released from prison, and now she wants justice. And they brought company. Marianne, the woman Joe was obsessed with, the woman Joe thought he killed. She's alive, and she tells Joe exactly what's coming, that he's going to die for what he did. Then something unexpected happens. They get to Bronte. Marianne and Kate explain everything to her. The body count, the lies, the manipulation, the trauma that he gave them. And Bronte finally sees it. Joe isn't a protector, he's a predator. But she decides to play along. Joe manages to escape the cage using a key he stitched in his arm, and he attacks Kate. He hits her over the head and shoots her. But then Maddie, trying to get revenge, sets the bookstore on fire, whilst Joe and Kate are still locked in the basement. So Bronte, desperate to get justice, saves him, but he leaves Kate to die in the fire. To end him, Bronte becomes him, manipulative, performative, seductive. She convinces Joe that she's still his. She lets him believe that they're running away together, and when he drops to one knee and proposes, Bronte says yes. Not out of love, out of strategy. Joe's proposal isn't about romance, it's about amnesia. If he can secure her devotion, he thinks everything can go back to how it was. But this is the final inversion of his tactics. He thinks that he's won her, but he's being controlled for the first time in his life. And together they drive off, Joe grinning, believing he's found redemption, completely unaware that the woman beside him isn't his salvation, she's his executioner. Bronte pretends to be on the run with Joe. The boat ride, the intimacy, the closeness, but it's all a reverse engineered psychological trap. Joe's own tactics, weaponized against him one final time. Bronte performs empathic deception, mirroring Joe's emotional patterns to lower his guard, not to dominate him, but to deliver justice. She is the anti-Joe, not seducing for power, but for truth. This is dark mirroring at its most poetic. Joe built his life seducing women into surrender through intimacy. Now Bronte lures him into honesty through intimacy, and then uses it to destroy him. While getting intimate, Bronte suddenly stops. She points a gun at Joe and asks the question that started it all.
I know you did it. I know you killed her. But how did you do it?
You don't want to know.
Yes, I do. Fucking tell me.
Even now, completely exposed, with nowhere to run, Joe won't confess. Not to her, not to anyone. This isn't privacy, it's pathological moral denial. Joe's identity is so tightly bound to his self-made myth that revealing the truth would cause psychic annihilation. He believes if he dies with the secret, he wins. This is final narrative preservation, clinging to the story even if it kills him. But then comes the moment that breaks him. Using an old contact, Joe manages to reach Henry on the phone. He thinks his son will understand. He thinks his son will still love him and be willing to run away with him, to wait for him. But Henry doesn't cry. Henry doesn't beg for his father to come back. He simply says,
Do you remember when you used to tell me there were no monsters in my room?
Yeah, of course.
You lied. It was you. You're the monster.
Joe's final thread snaps. This is core schema collapse. The crumbling of Joe's internal myth that he was a savior, a protector, a necessary evil. He could survive hatred from the world, but not rejection from his own legacy. Henry's voice doesn't just break his heart, it exposes his lie. Joe was never protecting anyone. He was the thing they needed protecting from. He was the monster. And what comes next is inevitable. Joe lashes out.
It was always gonna end this way, wasn't it?
No, it didn't have to! But you're ungrateful! You're spiteful! I made you special! Ronte, and you're too selfish to know how good you've had it! You wanna know how I killed Beck?
I'll show you.
He tries so hard to kill Bronte, he shoots her, he drowns her. He tries so hard to kill her, and this one isn't for anyone's love, or to save anyone, or to rescue anyone. He's trying to destroy evidence of his failure. He failed to make Bronte who he wanted her to be. And this is Predator in collapse mode. No mask, no romance, just rage. He runs into the forest, but in some crazy revelation, Bronte survives. She had managed to call the police, and as they close in, Joe even manages to kill an officer. One last delusional performance. But then Bronte steps forward, gun in hand, and demands that he surrender. Joe refuses. He'd rather die than have to face his consequences. So he charges at Bronte, hoping that she shoots him dead. And she does shoot him, but in the genitals. A painful wound, but not a fatal one. But shooting him in the genitals isn't random. It's the destruction of his power structure. The part of him that's seduced, manipulated, and controlled. It's a symbolic castration. A final rejection of the fantasy he built around dominance, intimacy, and charm. Bronte didn't just shoot the man, she destroyed the myth. Now, Joe Goldberg is caged. And no, not in no bookstore basement in a glass cage, not in a fantasy, in a real prison, with real walls, with no one left to fool, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Whilst in there, he reads fan mail, believing he's become some misunderstood icon. He still clings onto the idea that he's not the problem, society is. The truth? Joe Goldberg is incapable of genuine transformation, because Joe never wanted forgiveness. He wanted worship. He wanted someone to validate his demonic behavior, and when the world refused to kneel, he tried to burn it down.